evening and welcome to J. Bells and Isaac's Grand Adventures. And yesterday, there's a YouTube page that I follow quite often, and it is called Faces of the Forgotten. And he travels to different cemeteries. He tells stories and honors the person and the graves, mausoleum studies visiting. And he tells their story. And I really love that. I love history anyway, but he was in Acacia Park Cemetery and Mausoleum, Norwood Park Township, Cook County, Illinois. He done a video of that there. And he was telling the story of the Christmas tree ship of Captain Herman Frank Schooneman. Captain Herman Frank Schooneman. And he told the story about the captain. And he would deliver trees, freshly cut trees and cargo from near Michigan and all the way down to Chicago. And instead of selling his trees to the market, he would sell directly off his ship. He would just dock his ship there in Chicago, and he would sell off of his ship. And it was an annual custom. It became an annual event. Everybody just looked forward to that. And a lot of times, if somebody wasn't able to purchase a Christmas tree, he would give it to him. And he would help out a lot of the people that needed help, the poor people. He would help them out. And so he was there yesterday on Faces of the Forgotten. If you want to look it up on YouTube and go and like his page, I'm very sure he would love that. But he was there yesterday at the where the family is at. Of course, I don't think he's ever recovered. But anyway, we're going to look at a book. And I know it's The Christmas Tree Ship is the title of it. And it's by Carol Crane. And it's illustrated by Chris Ellison. And she writes in there, she writes about this important part of history and about Captain Herman Schooneman. And she writes it into a fictional story about her grandpa that was worked in the lighthouse, and how her grandpa told stories. And she said that part was true. Her grandpa loved to tell stories. But it's just a little short story, but it's really, really a beautiful pictures in there. I mean, beautiful, beautiful scenes and pictures in this book. You can get it off Hoopla. I don't know if it might be on Kentucky Unbound. Let me make sure. I'll make sure before I say. It might be on Kentucky Unbound. I can't remember if it was or not. We'll look and make sure. It's possible. There's a couple of books out. No, it's not on Kentucky Unbound. I thought it might be, but it's not. But it is on Hoopla. You can get it on Hoopla. And like I said, the title of it is The Christmas Tree Ship. But she writes it in a form of her grandpa telling her the story about the Christmas ship. And how her grandpa loved to tell stories. And she just wrote that He had a special little rocking chair, and that's in the end of her book. I'll just read the end excerpt from the end of the book. And she writes here, the events of the story are fiction based on fact. Fiction based on fact. My grandfather, Axel Anderson, loved to tell stories. He would sit with my cousins and listen. I would sit with my cousins and listen to his many tales of Michigan. He had immigrated to the United States from Sweden with his new wife, Hannah, in 1882, and the upper portion of lower Michigan must have reminded my grandfather of Sweden with its lakes, trees, and rolling hills. They settled in the Frankfurt area. My grandfather took on jobs such as log sitter, fisherman, lighthouse signal repairman. As he shared his stories with his grandfather, Anderson sat in his rocking chair, the one he had brought from Sweden in a bag and put back together piece by piece. He finally recalled the rocking. He fondly called it his remembering rocker. It was the only possession he had brought with him to America, was a rocking chair. That was her grandpa, Axel Anderson. So I thought that was neat. And she wrote it in a fictional story about him telling her the story. She also says, I cherish my grandfather's stories, told with a Swedish accent, often around a campfire. I especially loved hearing the story of Captain Schooneman, bringing trees to waiting families in Chicago. My grandfather did not find trees scattered along the Michigan shoreline. Or my grandfather did find trees scattered along the Michigan shoreline, bound with copper tags from the Rouse Simmons. That was the name of the ship, the Rouse Simmons. That was just amazing. But to tell you a little bit about, she writes a little bit about the history. Local newspaper accounts and other sources tell us that Rouse Simmons, a Great Lake schooner, it was the type of boat, Great Lake schooner. And the name of the ship was Rouse Simmons, was built in 1868 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In late November 1912, the ship was carrying more than 5,000 fresh-cut evergreen trees from Michigan's Upper Peninsula town of Thompson, near Mansequit, to Chicago, Illinois. Captain Herman Schooneman was known to have sold the Christmas trees for many years dockside at Chicago River's Clark Side Street docks for 50 cents or $1 each, or to have given them away to poor families. And he also helped a lot of poor families. He helped out as he could with other things. Shortly before the ship set sail, Captain Schooneman, who had been given the nickname Captain Santa, had promised his wife that this would be the last run on the aging schooner. Sadly, the Rouse Simmons never completed the planned last voyage across the lake. A storm with gale-force winds and snow moved across the water and is believed to have taken the ship down. The remains of the schooner were found in 1971 near Two Rivers, Wisconsin, in 172 feet of water. Christmas trees were still neatly stacked and strapped to the ship's deck. Items recovered from the Rouse Simmons wreckage are part of the shipwreck collection and the Roger Street Fishing Village Museum. Again, that's the Roger Street Fishing Village Museum in Two Rivers. In 2007, the shipwreck of Rouse Simmons was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So I really enjoyed reading the history. Yes, it's kind of like a fictional tale, but factual. Her grandpa did tell stories. She loved to hear her grandpa tell stories, and it's specifically about the Rouse Simmons ship. the schooner ship, Rouse Simmons, and its captain, uh, Captain Herman Schooneman. She loved to hear her stories. But the thing that really touched my heart, even though this tragic event happened, the very next year, the captain's wife, Barbara, she decided she couldn't let the tradition die down. She had to let that tradition live on in memory of her late husband. And she managed to rent a schooner, and she managed to get the people together and to deliver the trees the very next year, and gave away many, many trees to the poor and needy families. So I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful act. She wanted to keep that tradition going for her late husband and the people that he helped out. I was looking at, let's see. There's two different things you can get on, but if you go to, make sure I'm telling you right. Well, it's called the ChristmasShip.org, thechristmasship.org, and there's a website that you can go to. Just type in ChristmasShip.org. The Rouse Simmons was the original Christmas ship that came to the Chicago in the beginning of the holiday season for over 3 years. In the early 1900s, the Christmas tree ship was a 3-masted schooner that easily recognized by waiting crowds when they saw a Christmas tree tied to her main mast, and her decks loaded with thousands of Christmas trees destined for Chicago families. And it's still going on today. They're still carrying on the tradition today. And I thought that was just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We thank all that participated in the 2022 Chicago's Christmas ship. The 24th voyage is scheduled for Friday and Saturday, December 1st and 2nd of 2023. That would be next year, of course. We couldn't make this happen without the help of individuals and groups that support us through financial and in-kind donations. 100% of donated funds are used for the purchase of Christmas trees. Please consider becoming a tree donor today. So they still do that. They still help the kids. Starting in 2004, participating youth groups, high school age scouting, and other organized youth groups have played an ever-increasing important and appreciated role in the charitable program. We invite returning new units of recognized youth groups to contact us using the volunteer inquiry section of the Contact Us menu. This is the only way new or returning youth groups may qualify to participate. Today's Christmas tree ship. Chicago's boating community reenactment of the olden days of the Rouse Simmons landing in Chicago is now portrayed by the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Mackinac. The trees are offloaded from the Mackinac by local youth volunteers, including Sea Cadets, venture crews, Sea Scouts, and young Marines, unloaded into trucks for distribution. to more than 1,000 deserving families throughout Chicago by Ada S. McKinley Community Services. The gift of Christmas trees for deserving families is made possible by the generous financial support of sponsors, donors, and contributors. So they kept the tradition going even today. It's still going, the Christmas show. So I thought that was just amazing. Just amazing. You know, yeah, tragedy unfolded. He got caught in a storm, in a bad storm. Rain, sleet, snow, ice. And we know the ship went down. But his wife chose to turn that into a tradition and chose to keep it up. You know, around this time of year, I think many people, they remember their families more because this is the time families often come together around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Christmas times, New Year's. They come around together for the holidays to spend time together. And we remember people that has passed on before us. And you know, we got to let their memory live, and that really touches my heart, because this Rouse Simmons ship and Captain Schooneman, his memory lives on in the volunteers that helps. His memory lives on. It might be a small way, but that memory lives on. And I think it's important that we keep the memory of our loved ones alive. I think that's very, very important that we do that. My Aunt Boots, Beulah Ashley, she loved to read. That was one of her things that she loved to do. She loved to read. And she got me into reading. And her and some of my teachers, Mrs. Grace and Miss Betty Combs, Mr. Richard Spencer, and a couple of more, they got me into reading as well. But my Aunt Boots, she had like a lot of books, and I would come out and I would just borrow a book off of her, and I'd bring it back after I read it. But I carry on the tradition of lending books out to people, because it's important that we do that. But the Christmas tree ship, it lives on. And if you want to see where his family is placed at, and the plaque honoring that family, go to, again, Faces of the Forgotten Facebook page. Not Facebook page, but Faces of the Forgotten. Well, I think he has a Facebook page too, but Faces of the Forgotten YouTube channel. And you can go to that and find out more about that. But this author does a great job telling the history and telling how his wife carried on that tradition the very next year. And not only that, but this author, this author of this book, The Christmas Tree Ship, she's also passing on something. She's passing on her grandfather's joy for telling stories. And again, I'll name the author one more time. It's the author is Carol Crane, and illustrated by Chris Ellison. And to tell you a little bit about the author, Carol Crane, like I said, she's passing on her grandpa's legacy. You know, she's that memory will always be there. But a little bit about the author, Carol Crane. Carol Crane. She loves to write about her family, The Christmas Tree Ship is based on a story Carol's Swedish grandfather told of bravery and dedication of the Lake Michigan ship captain and his family. Carol and her cousins spent their summers on the shores of Lake Michigan swimming, boating, and fishing, and also picked cherries to earn money for school clothes in the fall. She's often asked by children during school visits what inspired her to become a writer. Her answer is reading other authors' words about their experiences. I've spent many hours at the library using books as a vehicle for traveling all over the world. Carol's previous book, The Handkerchief Quilt, is about her mother, who was a reading teacher who brought the community together to sew a quilt made from handkerchiefs given to her by her students. Carol now resides in North Carolina with her 2 grandsons and their 2 cats, Dally and Skittles, who listen to her stories. And then the illustrator, Chris Ellison, received his formal art training at the Harris School of Art in Franklin, Tennessee, later at the Portfolio Center in Atlanta, Georgia. He has illustrated both children's picture books, adult, and fiction for more than 20 years. Chris has illustrated several books for Sleeping Bear Press, including Pappy's Handkerchief and Let Them Play, both named notable social studies trade books for young people. Chris lives in Mississippi with his wife, Leslie, and two young sons. But if you want to get the book, it is on Hoopla, The Christmas Tree Ship by Carol Crane, and illustrated by Chris Ellison. Very, very good book. If you got a youth in your life that loves history, that would be a good read for them. But let's keep the memories alive. This Christmas, let's keep the memories alive of our loved ones all throughout the year. And let's carry on traditions that they have done, the good that they have done. And let's make this world, you know, somebody once said that his whole goal in this life was to leave this world a better place than what he found it. Let's make that our goal, is to leave this world a better place than what we find it. So I encourage you today to go to Faces of the Forgotten, and he'll give you the tour of where and the story, more about that story. I think you will enjoy it. But anyway, I'm J-Bo signing off, and from J-Bo and Isaac's Grand Adventures, and we will see you later on in a few days, maybe. Bye-bye.